Hi, this is Muhammad, and today we will continue our discussions of the book Principles of Management published by Flat World. Let me share my screen first. So today we will focus on Chapter 3, Personality, Attitudes, and Work Behaviors. Before going in the details of Chapter 3, I'd like to remind you with the definition of management we discussed in the first lecture. Management is basically the science of getting things done through the efforts of others, something in this direction. And if you think of this definition and consider a hypothetical scenario, you are a manager hired in an organization, let's say a restaurant, and you are a restaurant manager. So you are hiring planning to hire some new employees to join you in the restaurant. What are the goals or the factors you will consider? What are the factors you will consider when hiring these new employees? And how will these factors affect the goal of you or the final outcome you expect as a restaurant manager? So let's tie the definition to the context of a restaurant manager, getting things done through the efforts of others. What are the things you need to be done as a restaurant manager? So first, you need someone who is capable of preparing food, cooking the food, maybe buying the ingredients, maybe someone who can take care of the accounting and financial bookkeeping, financial aspects of the business, including bookkeeping. You need someone who is able to serve your guests and your customers. Maybe you would need someone who is able or capable of doing some marketing, including social media marketing and digital marketing. All of these are different tasks you will need to fulfill or accomplish in order to be a successful restaurant manager, or to help the restaurant you are managing achieve its goals, which is the general goal here is like shareholder wealth maximization. So you want maximum revenues and maximum satisfaction from your customers, so that they share positive word of mouth and help you improve or grow the business in the next years. So keep this example in mind. I'll try to kind of revert back to it whenever we want to explain something related to the topics of Chapter 3. Personality, attitudes, and work behavior. So why are these three topics related to management or principles of management? First, personality is highly relevant to management because the personalities of the people you hire or who will join your business, either as subordinates or other managers, will affect the performance of the business and will affect the performance of other employees interacting with them. And we will get to know more about personality in a little bit. Attitudes, same thing. People can have positive or negative attitudes toward an organization, toward other people, toward themselves even, and this will impact their productivity and their performance in the jobs they are hired to do. Work behaviors, all of these kind of are the aspect of the business that will be impacted by the personalities and attitudes. And again, we will get to know more about these topics in a few minutes. So whenever you hire someone to join an organization, you are bringing the skills, personalities, abilities, and values of these people to the organization, to the work environment in this organization. Skills and abilities are kind of, most of the time, they are used interchangeably. And there might be a fine line between skills and abilities. Basically, some researchers say like skills are products of practice or experience, while abilities can be like innate abilities, that something that you are able to do can happen naturally, like you have this trait of being able to speak publicly and influence others, for example. So is leadership an ability or skill? I will leave this to you, because to answer after reading this chapter, as I mentioned, many people will use these two terms interchangeably, and some others will consider a fine line between both of them, but they are very close in definition and what they mean and why they are important to managing a place like a restaurant, an organization like a restaurant. Personalities also are important because personalities usually represent stable traits that characterize the behavior of specific individuals. So some people will be more comfortable dealing with others, outgoing personalities, having outgoing personalities. They are more comfortable socializing and speaking to others, expressing their ideas, etc. Some others will be more introverted, meaning they are more comfortable working by themselves and maybe more productive when they work by themselves. Like, let's say, a computer programmer may be more comfortable just dealing with the code and computer without socially interacting with others. This is not to say that all computer programmers need to be introvert, but it's one job that does not require interacting with others and might fit more those who don't feel comfortable being in social contexts, having to interact with multiple people most of the time. I need to remind you that while we might be tempted to think that being extrovert or having this ability to interact and socially communicate effectively with others has an advantage over being introvert. Actually, when you read deeper or more about these two personality traits, you will find that there are some jobs that will benefit from the extroversion, and others that will benefit or fit more introverted personalities. So again, skills, personality, ability, and values. What are values in this context? Values usually refer to the things or the qualities in your life that you have labeled as important or essential, or something you would consider as valuable. This is from the word. This is why they constitute life values. And we will notice when we come to the definition or examples of values, usually the definitions of the various values start with the desire to do something. The desire to do something means these values represent some needs. They are valuable, they are important. That's why we need more of them. So there is a need for achievement, for example. So achievement could be a value. And there will always be people high in need for achievement or having high levels of this value will always appreciate achieving more in their jobs and will be more satisfied fulfilling this need for achievement. I will leave this part for you to read. There are some ways to assess the personality traits and to measure. There are some measurement scales to assess personality traits. One of the famous measurement scales is called the Big Five model, or Big Five personality traits. And if you do this, complete this questionnaire or answer these questions, you will be assessed based on 5 dimensions: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And of course, you will get to know more about the meaning of each of these 5 dimensions. But again, it's important. Sometimes a certain job will require or favor someone high or low sometimes in one of these dimensions. And if you can make a good fit between the personality traits and the requirements or the expectations of the job, this means these people will be more likely to be satisfied doing the job. They will enjoy doing the job. They will be more productive, or high likely to be more productive in doing this job. And that will represent a success to you as a manager. if you don't pay attention to the personalities of the people you will hire or assign to do certain tasks, that might create some situation where people will not feel comfortable doing the job. They will develop negative attitudes toward these jobs because this adds some pressure on them. For example, if you hire an introverted person as a marketing manager, and part of the rules of the marketing manager is to speak to the media and do public speaking in several locations or several occurrences or situations, having an introverted person assigned this task or responsible of this task might lead this person to have less satisfaction in the job. And well, over time, this will create more stress on the person, and eventually this will have negative effect on the person's performance with this job. So doing these personality assessments is important to make sure that there are no discrepancies between the personality traits they possess and the requirements of their jobs or the new roles you hire them to do. Okay, so values we mentioned before, these represent some important qualities in your life, some essential qualities in your life, and most of them you can refer to or think of as needs, important needs. And as we mentioned before, if you look at the definitions of some of these values, achievement, the desire for personal success, conformity, it's motivation through self-discipline and obedience to the will of others. Some people will have a desire to conform with others, even if this means they can give away or they might give away some of their personal needs, but they will feel more comfortable just conforming and being more similar to others in their groups. Hedonism, the desire of pleasure in life, power, the desire of control over others. If you have someone who have power as a value, and you assign this person a task where he or she will be a subordinate and will need to receive requests and tasks from many people around them, they might not be as satisfied as in the case if they were the person giving tasks and assigning responsibilities to others, because excuse me, this will fit more their values and need for or desire for having control and authority over others. If the values they possess match or fit the requirements of their jobs, this will lead to higher satisfaction and potentially higher performance, which means more positive outcomes for the organization at all. Need for security, the desire for safety and stability. If you have someone who has security and stability as a high value or have high desire for security and stability, and assign this person a task or a job where there is high level of insecurity, and potentially maybe there are high chances of maybe getting fluctuations in pay levels, maybe based on achieving some targets like sales positions, etc. These persons might not be satisfied in these type of jobs. They would appreciate more maybe a lower level but a more stable paycheck. So they would have a lower salary. They might accept a lower salary as long as they can secure this salary without any high uncertainty. So this is because they have a high value of need or desire for safety and stability, because security is one of the key values in their lives. We will move to perception. So perception, here's the definition we have: the process with which individuals detect and interpret environmental stimuli. I'd like you to remember the word interpret environmental stimuli, simply because when you read more in psychology and human cognition, we as humans, we don't have direct access to our external environments except through our senses. So if it wasn't for our vision senses and the five senses we have, or the senses, human senses we have, this is our only access to external environment. We can hear stimuli, we can see stimuli, we can taste or smell or touch stimuli, but this is the only way we can access the external world. So our senses, if you think deeply in this, they only communicate some basic information that does not mean or could mean several things. So if you look at the way your eyes see, the information coming from your eyes to your brain are basically some basic physical information about the geometric shapes and colors of these objects you see, but there are no meanings attached to this information. Let's say you look at a chair. Your eyes actually don't see a chair. They see a geometric shape with a horizontal surface, a flat surface, and maybe four legs, and maybe a back support. And you compare this visual information with the information stored in your long-term memory, and this information matches the object you have previously called or referred to as a chair. This is how you identify or refer to the object you are seeing now as a chair. So if you think of perception, the perception is the process of interpretation. You receive information, yet you still need to interpret this information to attach a meaning to it. Why perception is important? Because the same information could be received by more than one person, and yet they are perceived differently. And let's say you are listening to the news, like a group of 5 people listening to the news, and you hear something in the news about maybe the drought in the west part of the United States now, and there are some reports about global warming, etc. This might be the reason for these severe droughts and wildfires we have experienced recently. One person in the group might completely agree with this and say, yes, we need to do something about the global warming, and we need to minimize our impact, negative impact, or carbon footprint, change our industrial processes, etc., to help the environment or protect the environment. Another person in the group might think this is not accurate, this is not scientific, this is kind of a natural cycle that happens every few hundreds or a few thousands of years. It just happened to occur in our time, and our industrial activities and the carbon footprint of human activities has nothing or very minimal effect on these global warmings, even if they are skeptical about calling it global warming. So this means same report, same information received by 2 different individuals, and they were perceived in different ways. And actually, these different perceptions can trigger different behaviors. So one of them might start or decide to, okay, I need to reduce my personal carbon footprint on the environment. I'll try to look, maybe reduce the time the mileage I use with my car, or maybe I'll consider buying an electric car. Someone would say, I'll try to replace any gas equipment with electric or battery operated equipment. The other person might think, no, this would cost me more money. I need to save money by relying more on the cheaper equipment or tools, regardless of how they are operated or how they impact the environment. These different behaviors come from different perceptions because they have interpreted the information they received in that report in different ways. So perception is affected by individual values, needs, and emotions. Again, if you think of these 2 individuals who were listening to this news report about global warming or the drought and wildfires in the west side of the United States, because they have different values or maybe different needs or different emotions toward this topic, this will shape to some extent their perceptions. And again, the perception will shape the behavior and response to this kind of information. If someone has the environment, saving or protecting the environment as one of the high or important values in life, they will respond more positively on these reports and calls to protect the environment compared to someone who does not have this sense of urgency regarding protecting the environment, or this is not one of his or her core values in life. Of course, perception could happen through visual stimuli like the picture we have in front of us. Depending on which part of the picture you focus on, you might see something different. The black part represents two faces looking at each other. The colored part represent a cup. Some people will again respond to the same stimulus, same picture in different ways, depending on which parts they have focused on first. You can develop perceptions of others or other aspects in your environment, and you can develop perceptions of yourself. So here we have two examples: self-effacement bias and self-enhancement bias. Self-effacement bias, meaning you kind of undermine your own performance and your own abilities. You think you attribute your success to some external factors like or luck, or maybe you were in the right place in the right time, but it wasn't actually your efforts that contributed to this success. On the other side, we have self-enhancement bias, which is the opposite. Sometimes you were lucky to be present in a situation and you have achieved some positive outcomes, yet you think it was actually your effort and skills that helped you achieve this positive outcome, not just the mere presence in the right time, in the right place. Okay. You can have perceptions of other elements in your social environment, so other people around you or other elements, as we mentioned, in the environment. So sometimes we have stereotypes as one of the perceptual examples for the social environment. Basically, you are trying to apply some generalizations on members of certain groups. So you look at members of certain groups in your society, and you try to label them or label all the members of these groups in the same way. This is called stereotyping. Stereotyping, as a psychological practice, helps us make sense of the world and maybe make faster decisions, but it could be dangerous because sometimes you label someone or like give a label to someone because of something that was irrelevant or very highly unrelated to the label you have assigned to this person. Like you see an immigrant, for example, and you think these are people coming to compete with me and making my economic conditions harder or more difficult. So and the reason you might have this perception is because you have met a single case or read a report about a single incident where the presence of immigrants in a certain economy or society was correlated with some challenges, economic challenges. You might be tempted to apply or generalize or stereotype this single incident to every case when you have immigrants. So this will mark your perception of immigrants, for example. Of course, people might have tendency to stereotype based on gender, based on race, based on skin tone, based on things that in most cases have nothing to do with the label or the attribute you are assigning to these members, just because you think they belong to a certain group, and every person or every member in this certain group should have or share the same attributes. It is important to, as a manager, if you are a manager, it is important to make sure that you are not falling victim for stereotyping. You are not hiring or firing or promoting or demoting someone because of factors that have nothing to do with their job performance, and you are not using or allowing stereotypes to bias your management decisions. Self-fulfilling prophecy or selective perception also are other aspects related to social perception. For example, self-fulfilling prophecy it is highly related to stereotypes. So you start with having a stereotype about a certain members of a social group, and whenever you meet or encounter social interaction with one of the members of this group, you start assuming or behaving as if this stereotype is true, and you find yourself behaving in a certain way, and the other person might actually, because you have put them in this position, they might find themselves behaving in a way that will confirm this membership or this attribute. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Both sides are aware of the stereotype, and both sides decided to interact as if this is a reality. It's not just a perception, and they have fulfilled the prophecy and adjusted their behavior to match the stereotype, even when this is not the natural behavior of the members of this social group. So work attitudes. Attitudes refers to the opinions, beliefs, and feelings about aspects of our environments. When we mention the example of listening to a news report about drought and wildfires in some parts of the United States, you might have an attitude toward this already, that you might have some feelings or beliefs about like we have done bad or we have harmed our environment to a high extent, and actually we need to act quickly, and this might be shape your attitude toward listening to this news. You might be willing to volunteer to advocate for protecting the environment, or join some activists or campaigns or social movements to protect the environment. You might alter your own behavior or your own consumption habits by trying to buy an electric car or using less gas-powered machines or tools. These are all examples of attitudes, your attitudes toward the environment, shaping your own behavior and altering your own behavior, even if this will cost you some extra money, because maybe an electric car is relatively more expensive than a gas-powered car. Same thing for electric-powered tools compared to gas-powered counterparts. Attitude is almost always communicated, whether consciously or unconsciously, in speech or in body language. So go back to the example of a manager hiring some new personnel or staff to join a restaurant. So a restaurant manager is hiring several positions in the to join the restaurant. The goal is to help the restaurant grow as a business and increase or maximize its revenues. Why are work attitudes or the attitudes of these new employees matter in the hiring process? Because you want happier employees, because happier employees are often more productive employees. And if they are more productive employees, this means more productive organization and more successful organization. So if you hire some employees with the wrong attitudes or with negative attitudes, eventually this will have negative effect on their productivity and the performance of the entire organization. And this will represent or resemble a bad management decision. Factors of job satisfaction. We have mentioned job satisfaction several times. Here are some factors that will affect the job satisfaction. Personality of your employee. Of course, personality, there are no right and wrong when it comes to personality. There are just different personalities. And as a manager, you should always try to fit the people high with certain personality traits with the expectations of the roles you are hiring them for. So make sure that you are not hiring an introverted person and expecting them to have public speeches all the time, for example. So that's about personality. Person environment fit, you need to think always about the fit between the person and the environment. If you have maybe person environment fit could be some personal requirements of this person or a certain person might fit some tasks in the job and might not fit other tasks. For example, if you have a task that will require a person to travel all the time, and like every month they are at least 10 to 15 days on the road, driving thousands of miles, and you hire someone who doesn't feel, who have negative attitude toward driving. So they get tired, they get sick, they get maybe negative implications on their health and attitude by driving. So make sure that would represent a person environment misfit. you need to make sure that whenever you hire someone to do a certain task or to fulfill a certain role, there is a fit between this person and the work environment related to this position. The job characteristics also are important, and you need to consider this because some job characteristics will might be more difficult or challenging for some people, and some of them might be more acceptable and appreciated by others. So there should be a match between the preferences of the person and the expectations or the characteristics of the job. Same thing for organizational justice, psychological contract, and stress. Of course, some of these factors, the direction of the relationship is clear. For example, high levels of stress will definitely have negative impact on job satisfaction. High levels of organizational justice will definitely have positive effect on job satisfaction. But again, personality has not a positive or a negative relationship. It just different personalities will fit different types of jobs. So there is no positive or right or wrong when it comes to personalities. Organizational justice and psychological contracts. Again, as we mentioned, these are examples. The organizational justice is one of the examples where definitely a more just work environment will promote productivity and enhance productivity compared to unfair organizational environment. So this is one of the examples when you think of maintaining a highly just work environment, because regardless of which personality you hire, regardless of which skills the people you hire will possess, regardless of which positions they will fulfill, they will appreciate, in most cases, they will appreciate high levels of organizational justice. So what about psychological contracts? The root of organizational justice, the psychological contract is the unspoken, informal understanding that an employee will contribute certain things to the organization and will receive certain things in return. So whenever you hire someone to join your organization, so to join your restaurant in the example we started with, you might have a contract, like a contract that both parties will, employment contract. So this is the salary or the hour rate we agreed upon. These are how many off days or vacation days you have. This is the health insurance details. If you have any other benefits, you just list them in the legal contract, legal employment contract. Aside from this contract, there is a psychological contract. For example, the psychological contract could include terms like, if we have late work, we expect you to stay late after work hours. It's not listed in the legal contract, and you are not required by law to stay after work hours, but it's part of the psychological contract, like everyone else does it. It's an expectation for this kind of job. It's informal, not formal or legal, yet it's part of a psychological contract. If you don't do it, people will think negatively of your attitude toward this work. It could be like we help new hires by staying or spending more time training them. It's not a requirement in your job, maybe may or may not be a requirement, but it's a psychological, it's part of the psychological contract. This is what we do in this restaurant. Whenever we have a new hire, the current employees will try to support the new hire and give them the training they need until they complete their onboarding and understand all the work processes around them. So again, informal, unspoken understanding and terms of the contracts that are expected by the employees, but these are not part of their legal or formal employment contract. Work behavior and job performance. So in this part of the chapter, the authors list 5 different job behaviors and try to assess their relationship with job performance. So first, like some of the behaviors, one of the 5 behaviors is the job performance itself. And underneath the job performance, there are some factors that will have positive or negative impact on this behavior in the workplace. Like the general mental abilities of the individual you hire for to perform a certain task will have positive effect on the job performance. If they have maybe formal training, if they have formal education, if they possess some general mental abilities to do or meet the expectation of this role, this will improve their job performance. The way they are treated at work, if they are treated fairly, if they are their achievements are appreciated, this will have positive effect on their performance. The level of stress, and there is a negative sign beside the word stress. This means stress has a negative effect on job performance. The higher the job stress, job-related stress, the lower the expected job performance. Positive work attitudes and personality. Again, personality, there are no right and wrong when it comes to personality. There is just fit. Some personalities will fit better certain jobs, but will have less fit with other jobs. Citizenship, or its organizational citizenship behavior. This represents the kind of the expectations beyond your job description. And this is highly related to some extent with the psychological contract we mentioned a few minutes ago. So you are expected, according to the legal contract, the employment contract, to perform the tasks listed in your job description. On top of that, you are also expected to be a good citizen, meaning you are expected to do some tasks up and above the requirements of your job, like training new employees or staying late some days to finish some tasks because you are starting early the next day, or this will get you running faster the next day, or preparing for a big event the next day. So this is part of organizational citizenship behavior, and most of the time this is kind of a psychological contract. It's not part of your formal job description or job requirements. These are two positive attributes or behavior: job performance and citizenship. We also have three kind of negative attitudes or behaviors, including counterproductive work behavior, absenteeism, and turnover. These are kind of perceived to be of negative relationship to the productivity or job performance. Counterproductive work behavior, meaning you don't care about doing a high quality job, for example, or you don't care about protecting the tools and equipment and the assets in your work environment. You don't care about training new employees or getting them more productive. You spread rumors and negative or wrong, sometimes misinformation in the workplace that will maybe undermine the productivity of other employees. So these are all examples of counterproductive work behaviors. Why would some people be motivated to engage in counterproductive work behavior? Most of the time because these people are unsatisfied employees. They are not happy employees, and this could be because of a misfit between their jobs and their personalities. It could be because of organizational injustice. They perceive the organization to be unfair to them. It could be something, they have negative attitudes toward the work in the environment, in the organization. It could be some personal attitudes, like they just don't fit this work environment. In that case, these are all examples of failures from the managers who hired them for these positions and gave them the time to develop these counterproductive work behaviors. Of course, some counterproductive work behaviors are fixable. Some might be more difficult to fix. For example, if the reason behind counterproductive work behavior is or perceived organizational injustice, like someone thinks my company was not fair to me when I had this incident or this life event or whatever. They deducted some parts or some amount of my salary because I was maybe absent for a few days, but they did not consider that I had a personal event that justified my absence. This was unfair to me. Or maybe they hired or promoted another colleague or co-worker, even though my performance was higher or better than this other employee. So I perceive this as unjust or a case of injustice to from the organization and towards me, and this encourages me to engage in counterproductive work behaviors. A simple fix to this is to fix the cause or the root of the problem. So explain the reasons for promoting or not promoting the employee, promoting the other employee or the other coworker. Explain the reason you have deducted some, as a manager, you have deducted some part of the salary of this employee, and make sure that, or even make some corrective actions. If you think you made the wrong decision in the past, you can make a corrective action and fix this incident of injustice, and this can change the counterproductive behavior into a more productive behavior. Some other counterproductive behaviors will be difficult to fix if they are inherent in some personality traits, for example. So there is nothing related to the organization. Someone just doesn't like to learn new skills, and their job requires them to maybe deal with a new technology or to get some training to use advanced technology, which will have positive impact on the organizational productivity or the performance of the organization. If someone have a tendency not to learn new technology, and then they find themselves in a situation where they consistently have to learn and operate and handle new technologies, this would be a difficult fix. And probably you have two choices. You either need to shift the responsibilities of this person into a new position where they don't need to deal with new technologies all the time, or you might negotiate this person leaving the organization and giving them some time to find another job that will better fit their attitudes toward learning new technologies. Absenteeism and turnover are kind of related behaviors. Most of the time they are correlated with low satisfaction. When people are unhappy or dissatisfied with their jobs, they will be more likely to have high turnover, leave the job, or be absent most of the time. For specifically with absenteeism, I need to point your attention to another term called presenteeism. Presenteeism means when you have someone or design a work environment that will discourage absenteeism, and this could be more helpful to the organization productivity, but this might put some pressure on some employees who don't feel well, or maybe were sick for a few days and need time to recover, more time to recover, to be present and apply pressure on their health. So this is not a positive thing to do. You don't need to have this psychological pressure. Maybe it's part of the psychological contract again in the organization that we are just not absent, even if we feel a little bit tired or burnt out or need more time to recover. We just come to work. Some organizations might think, or some employees might think, they are expressing or demonstrating citizenship behavior by doing so, but this is not good or helpful on the long run, because this will have negative effects on or implications on their health on the long run, and the organization eventually will suffer, and they are draining their energy, and eventually their productivity will decline. Developing your positive attitude and skills. So whenever you have negative certain attitudes toward a certain job, and first, if you are a hiring manager, you need to understand the attitudes of the new candidates you are interviewing and considering for the jobs, and try to fit them either with when it comes to their personalities, their skills or abilities, or work attitudes or values to the jobs they are about to be hired for. And after you hire them, you need also to make this assessment, continuous assessment and evaluation. Make sure that you are creating an environment, a work environment that will leave your employees always happier and more productive employees. Again, a happier employee is a more productive employee most of the time. So make sure they understand the requirements of the job. Make sure any changes to these requirements are communicated properly and are distributed fairly among the all employees. If you have benefits, or if you have any rewards. These rewards should be distributed in a fair way. And if you have some maybe promotion opportunities, the basis of these promotion opportunities should be declared and announced and communicated properly to all employees. This will help them avoid incidents where they develop negative attitudes because of perceived organizational injustice, or someone else took something that was supposed to be mine, or my right to do. So these are examples of things that can help you as a manager have happier employees. Here are 6 suggestions for finding or increasing work satisfaction. We have get accurate information about the job and the company before you are hired for a job or a company. Don't be tempted because you need a job, because you need some to secure the salary or the financial part of the job. Don't be tempted to accept something that will have negative effect on your happiness and your performance. You are actually not helping your career on the long run. Maybe you secure salaries for the next few months, but on the long run, you are burning your energy in the wrong place. You are not learning enough. You are maybe developing negative attitudes toward this organization, and eventually they might ask you to leave, and then you will be in a worse position looking for the second job and trying to justify why did you leave this first job after a short period of time. So understand the requirements and the expectations of the job, and make sure try to envision yourself doing the requirements of this job, and think, will this make you happier or less happy person? Develop good relationships at work. Try to communicate properly and nicely with the other co-workers. Try to demonstrate organizational citizenship behavior. Try to use the social contract to kind of do things up and above or beyond the requirements of your job description. Step up to help a new hire. Step up to help meet a tight deadline. Step up to help preparing for maybe a new marketing campaign or expansion to a new location. All of these things are always good qualities to have and demonstrate to others. Be proactive in managing organizational life. Try to understand and be part of the organizational life in a positive way that fits your personality and your values and attributes. Leverage your big 5 traits. Again, understand your own personality and try to accept jobs that match these personality traits. Know when to leave. When you try your best and do your research and start a job, and then maybe after a few months or a few years, the requirements of the job or the culture inside the organization has changed, and you cannot fit anymore the new requirements or the new culture, maybe it's time to leave the organization. So some aspects can be fixed, but if you think going to work every day adds more stress to you, it might be a good time to consider leaving to a different organization. Talking of fit, the last item in the list here is a good fit with the job and company are important to your happiness. Always think of how the company, the organization, and the job requirements fit your skills, your abilities, your personality, your values in life, and your attitudes, because all of this as a bundle will make a more satisfied employee of you, and a more satisfied employee is a more productive employee, and a more productive employee means in most cases a more successful organization. This is all I have for you for chapter 3. Again, as a reminder, these are not all the aspects of chapter 3. I was trying to highlight some of the important elements, but I still expect you to read the book chapter from the textbook and let me know if you need help understanding or making sense of any items in this chapter. Thank you, and see you in the next chapter.